Disclaimer.
I died, and the first accusation was my secret.
I am Jeremiah Coleman, 38, living in Brampton, Ontario. On August 17th, 2021, my heart stopped for 14 minutes.
I live in Brampton, Ontario, and that morning began like any other. I left the house before dawn, the sky barely gray, my coffee already cold in the cup holder. I work nights at a warehouse in Mississauga, long aisles, cold floors, the same fluorescent hum that never felt like home. For years I told myself the move to Canada was a fresh start. I told myself the distance from my old life in the US would heal the ache. It did not. The ache stayed. It shifted. It found a way to speak when my wife was in the next room sleeping and when the light in our kitchen felt like a stranger. My name is Jeremiah, and for years I struggled with needing to be seen. I told myself it was small, that it did not matter, that I could handle it alone. But deep down, I knew something inside me was drifting, and I refused to face it. I began to joke more with a woman from work. It started with a laugh over a misplaced palette. Then it moved to messages after midnight, short confessions dressed as comfort. I told myself I needed a friend. I told myself it was only words. The truth is I wanted more than a friend. I wanted to feel wanted. I wanted to feel noticed. I wanted someone to tell me I mattered. I was not honest about that with myself. I had built a quiet life of small excuses. I told myself the messages were harmless because they stopped before anything real happened. I told myself the line remained unbroken. I am not sure when the forgetting started, when the promises I made to myself loosened. I began to tuck things away in the dark. Late-night texts. Quick replies between shifts. Little lies that piled up like dust on the shelf of my conscience. I would stand in the kitchen watching my wife sleep and tell myself I would stop. I would pray and then open the phone again. It felt like living twice. I knew I was wrong. I kept going. The day it all broke open was ordinary. I was driving on Highway 410, the radio low, my mind replaying a message I had not yet answered. Work was waiting, inventory to check, boxes to push, the clock to beat. The message hit something in me, a picture, a line, a jealousy fed. I planned to reply at the next light. I planned to breathe. Plans became useless in a moment. Traffic slowed. A truck ahead fishtailed. I felt the world tilt before I knew what happened. Metal screamed. My head slammed the wheel. Pain flared, sharp, immediate, like a hammer. My breath came shallow. A coolness spread across my palms though my heart felt hot and heavy. Time thinned, then stretched. I heard someone shout in a voice that might have been mine, "Hang on." Then nothing but a distant, muffled sound, like voices through water. I remember thinking, oddly, about the message I had not sent, and that thought cut sharper than any pain. I should have pulled over. I should have answered the hard things before the easy ones. I should have told the truth. Then everything went slow and thin. The headlights became halos. The car smelled of burned rubber and something sweeter, fear masked as regret. I felt my chest tighten in a way that was not only physical. It felt like the weight of all the secrets pressing down, and I could not breathe around them. Everything around me slowed, then stretched, then let go. I did not feel the weight of my body anymore, but I felt the weight of being. It was like my awareness peeled away before I understood what was happening. I blinked, at least it felt like I blinked, and suddenly I was standing outside the crushed door of my car. The windshield was spider-webbed. Steam rose from the hood. The smell of burning rubber and leaking coolant filled the air like a warning. Inside the car, I saw myself. My head was resting against the airbag, turned slightly to the side, mouth open just enough to reveal the limpness in my jaw. My chest was not moving. My skin had a dull gray tint I had never seen on a living person. And the sight hit me with a cold understanding that I should have felt in my bones, but I did not have bones anymore. A man from another car ran toward me, breath shaking, phone pressed to his ear. "He's not breathing, there's no movement," he said. His voice trembled, but it sounded distant, like I was hearing it through a long tunnel. I tried to step toward him. My foot touched the pavement, yet made no sound. I tried to speak. My lips moved, at least I think they did. But the air around me remained still. Another driver knelt beside my open door, leaning in carefully, his hands shaking as he spoke softly to the body I had left behind. "Sir, I need you to open your eyes for me." He was whispering like he was afraid I could hear him and be frightened. He did not know the part of me that could hear him was standing behind him. Paramedics approached fast, Toronto EMS uniforms, steady movements, breath visible in the cool morning air. But their voices sounded muffled, like someone had dipped the world into water. One of them positioned himself near my chest. I watched him press 2 fingers against my neck. His face changed, subtle, controlled, but serious. "No pulse," he said quietly to the other. The words dropped into the air like heavy stones. Something inside me sank, not physically, but emotionally, like a realization settling too late. I leaned closer, wanting to push myself back into that body, wanting to anchor myself into the shell that looked like me but no longer felt like home. My hand passed through the shoulder of the paramedic like smoke. No resistance. No contact. No sensation. It was like touching a memory instead of a person. The world around me faded at the edges, colors draining into a soft haze. I felt a pull, not violent, not sudden, just a firm tug at the center of who I was. Like the world behind me had opened a door I did not see, and something inside that doorway recognized me. The highway noise muted. The paramedics' movement slowed. Even the morning air stopped feeling like air. I turned, and behind me, the light faded into a thick darkness. It was not empty. It moved. It breathed. It had weight, depth, and presence, like a tunnel made of living shadow. Heat rolled out of it in waves, and even without lungs I felt pressure build inside my awareness, like someone had placed hands on my chest and pushed inward. The pull grew stronger, dragging me backwards, not falling, not floating, pulled. Like I had been claimed. The darkness curled around the edges of my vision. The air grew hotter. A low sound, like a distant cry, rose from deep within it. And somewhere in that darkness, beneath the heat and the pull and the pressure, I heard a whisper. Not loud. Not angry. Just certain. This is where truth begins. And the darkness closed in. When the darkness finally released me, it did not feel like landing. It felt like being placed. My feet, or whatever part of me counted as feet, touched a surface that looked like rock but glowed from beneath, as if fire lived inside it and wanted to break through. The ground pulsed faintly, like a heartbeat under stone. Heat rose in waves that did not burn my skin, but pressed into my soul, heavy and slow, as if the air itself was made of exhaustion and regret. I looked around, hoping to see anything familiar. There was nothing familiar here. The space stretched endlessly, swallowed in smoke that drifted upward without coming from any flame. It was a deep red haze, like the entire place was breathing out heat and sorrow. And then I heard them, not screams, not wailing, but low, broken sounds, like people crying through closed mouths. The kind of sound you make when pain becomes too deep for words. Silhouettes sat across the vastness. Not moving. Not speaking. Curled in shapes that looked like regret made physical. I wanted to call out, to ask where I was, to ask if they could see me, but my voice stayed locked inside me. And even if I could speak, I felt like sound didn't belong here. It was a place built for silence, a silence that pierced deeper than noise ever could. Every part of me trembled. Not from fear of what I saw, but from the feeling settling inside me. I knew this place. Not in memory, but in consequence. A pressure settled behind me. Soft at first. Then undeniable. It felt like someone was standing there, but not a person, a presence. A weight. A certainty. The air shifted, almost pausing, like the entire realm recognized that something greater than itself had entered. I did not turn around. I could not. It was as if my awareness bowed before his truth before my body could move. The presence spoke. Not into the air. Not into my ears. Into me. You know why you are here. The words entered like light piercing a crack in a wall, zero force, zero anger, but everything inside me came undone at the sound of them. I tried to form a thought, an objection, a denial, but the moment it rose inside me, the presence answered. Truth does not hide in this place. My knees weakened. If I still had lungs, I would have gasped. If I still had skin, it would have crawled. Because I realized something horrifying, I did not need him to tell me. I already knew. A thin veil appeared in front of me, made of smoke, but moving like glass turning fluid. It swirled, stretched, then solidified into a kind of window. Through it, I saw figures, souls, caught in loops of their own past. A man replayed the same conversation he'd had with a woman who was not his wife. Her laugh echoing faintly in the air. A woman scrolled through a phone with messages that flickered like small flames, each one a secret. Another man sat with his head in his hands, buried in the shadows of choices he had for years. None of them were being tortured. None of them were being chased. They were simply facing themselves, endlessly. The present spoke again, his voice calm and devastating. Sin that is hidden becomes the master of the soul. The veil shifted. The shapes in it moved, their stories blending into one another, affairs that started as comfort, attention that turned into desire, secrecy that grew into bondage. Every one of them repeated the same inner sentence. I will stop later. And the presence whispered, almost sorrowfully. Later is the lie that brings many here. My heart, or whatever part of me still felt like a heart, tightened painfully. Because every story in that veil felt like a reflection waiting to turn into my own. And the presence was not done. The veil brightened around its edges, preparing to show me the one truth I had avoided most. The truth about my affair. The truth I told myself I could manage. The truth I buried under excuses, silence, and delayed repentance. The veil began to pull my memories forward. And I felt something inside me break. The veil in front of me thickened, turning from smoke into something clearer, sharper, almost like glass carved from memory. I wanted to look away, but whatever held me in place gently forced my awareness forward. The presence beside me did not raise his voice, he did not need to. His silence pressed deeper than any command. The veil opened. And the first thing I saw was my phone. Not the phone itself, but the screen, lit with the exact message thread I had tried to forget. The words floated in the air like glowing ash, each letter unraveling the excuses I had built around them. I miss talking to you. You understand me better than she does. It is just between us. My own handwriting. My own choices. My own sin, now alive in front of me, stripped of the softness I used to cover it with. The present spoke, his voice low, steady. What you called comfort was the seed of destruction. The veil widened. Now I saw myself, months earlier. Standing in the warehouse, laughing with her. The kind of laugh you give when something inside you wants more. I watched myself lean in, watched my eyes soften, watched the exact moment the line blurred and I pretended not to see it. Memory after memory appeared. The first time I deleted a message before my wife saw it. The night I stayed in my car after work just to talk longer. The way my heart raced when her name lit up my phone. The excuses I rehearsed before walking through my front door. The tiny voice that said, "Stop now," and the louder voice that replied, "Later." The present spoke again, this time with a sadness that pierced. You traded truth for attention. The veil shifted. Now the scene showed my wife. Not in a dramatic or exaggerated way, just her, sitting at our dining table, waiting. Her hands around a mug, staring at the door, wondering why her husband was late again. The disappointment in her eyes wasn't anger, it was quiet, tired hurt. Hurt I had caused. Hurt I had ignored. I felt something tear inside me. "Please," I whispered, though I had no mouth. "Please stop, please." But the veil did not obey emotion. Another version of me appeared, standing behind her, physically at home but emotionally absent. I watched myself nod through her words while my mind drifted somewhere else. I watched myself choose distance without ever saying it out loud. The present stepped closer. I felt his nearness like truth wrapping around my soul, not squeezing it, revealing it. Every choice you hide shapes the path beneath your feet. The veil condensed suddenly, tightening its focus until only one scene remained. The day I crossed the line. In the vision, I sat in my car after work, the sun low, the city quiet. My phone lit up with her message, "Can we meet?" I told myself I would just talk. Just clear the air. Just check on her. The moment she got into my car, the energy changed, too close, too warm, too familiar. I watched myself lean toward her. I watched her lean toward me. I watched a boundary I had protected for years fall like a paper wall. And then the present spoke the sentence that broke me. You knew the truth, and you stepped over it. My knees gave out. I fell, not onto ground, because there was no real ground, but into a posture of collapse. A posture of someone who could not carry the weight of what he was being shown. The veil dissolved. The visions faded. But the truth remained inside me like a burning brand. Then came the part one feared without knowing why. Self-confrontation. A figure stepped out of the remaining smoke. It was me. But not the me in the visions, not the laughing me, not the lying me, not the distracted me. This version of me looked stripped, raw truth, no masks, no excuses, no survival instincts. His eyes held everything I tried not to acknowledge. The insecurity, the desire to be wanted, the selfishness, the fear, the pride. We stood face to face. I felt naked without having a body. Exposed without having skin. Seen without anywhere to hide. The other me spoke, my own voice, but honest in a way I had never allowed. You were becoming the man you swore you'd never be. The words hit like a wave. Memories crashed against me. Warnings I ignored, nights I pushed conviction aside, mornings I promised to do better and didn't. My voice cracked. I did not mean for it to go this far. The presence responded gently but firmly. Sin does not need permission to grow. Only opportunity. My soul trembled. Because I finally understood. Hell was not punishing me. Hell was revealing me. And in that moment, I wasn't afraid of fire. I was afraid of my truth. The present stepped closer, his tone final. This is the consequence of later. This is the harvest of a hidden seed. I lowered my head. If I had tears, they would have poured from me. Everything inside me broke open at once, regret, guilt, fear, grief, all twisting together until I could barely hold the weight of it. And then, just when the darkness tightened around me, just when I felt the full truth of who I had become, a light tore through the realm. But the rescue had not begun yet. That came next. This moment was judgment. Judgment of myself. By myself. Supported by the truth I had run from for too long. The darkness closed around me like it had been waiting for that moment, waiting for me to break enough to belong there. The heat thickened. The air pressed harder. The realm tightened its grip, as if it was ready to swallow the truth it had exposed. I sank lower, trembling. Every memory still burned inside me. Every regret echoed like it had a voice now. I whispered inside myself, the way a person whispers when they know no one can hear them. I cannot get out of this. I did this. This is because of me. As that thought formed, the darkness reacted. Not with anger, but with certainty. Like a place that had just been handed ownership. And then, a sharp vibration cut through the ground beneath me. The air shifted. The heat paused. Every silhouette in the distance turned its head, as if the realm itself felt something it could not control. A thin line of light appeared far above me. So thin it looked like a crack in reality. It flickered once, then stretched wider, wider, until the darkness began to ripple beneath it. The presence beside me grew stronger, not louder, not brighter, just unmistakably more authoritative. Like truth stepping forward. The voice spoke, not to me this time, but into the realm itself. He is not finished. The darkness shook. A blast of white gold light tore through the thick smoke overhead and poured down like a waterfall of fireless flame. It did not burn. It felt like relief. Like breath. Like waking up. The moment the light touched me, the pressure snapped. The weight lifted. For the first time since leaving my body, I felt released. Hands, not physical, but undeniable, reached into the core of me. Steady. Unshakable. A grip that knew exactly who I was and still chose to hold me. Come, the voice said. Not forcing, not pulling, just inviting with an authority that left no room for fear. My entire being rose. Not like floating, more like being carried upward through a place that no longer had permission to keep me. The ground fell away. The silhouettes faded. The heat retreated into distant shadows. The darkness around me thrashed, curling like smoke fighting against wind, but the light overpowered it effortlessly. Not in battle, but in dominance. A realm that never knew defeat suddenly bowed to something higher. As I ascended, the presence spoke again, gentle, firm, final. You will warn them. The words entered me like a vow. Not punishment. Purpose. The light intensified. The realm behind me dissolved. My awareness shot upward like being pulled through the center of a storm. Then, I felt something slam against me. Pressure. Coldness. A heaviness I had forgotten. A feeling I had once called being alive. The rescue was done. Now came the return. The light dragged me upward so fast the darkness vanished in a blink. Heat turned to cold. Pressure turned to weight. Silence turned to sound, sharp, chaotic, overwhelming. Then everything stopped. I hit something, hard. Not violently, but suddenly. Like falling into a body that had been empty too long. A crushing heaviness wrapped around me. Limbs. Skin. Sharp cold air flooding into lungs that felt like they were made of glass. I gasped. It was the first real sound I had made since the moment I left the world. He's back, he's breathing. A voice shook above me, raw with shock. My eyes flew open, and the world came rushing in at once, the flashing red lights of the ambulance, the blur of paramedics leaning over me, the sting of oxygen flooding my chest, the cold metal of the stretcher beneath my back. Everything was too bright. Too loud. Too real. I tried to move, but my body trembled violently, as if every muscle was waking from a long, painful sleep. My vision doubled, then tripled, then snapped back into place. "Stay with me, sir, look at me," a paramedic said. His voice wasn't calm, it wavered like he had seen something impossible. "You were gone for 14 minutes. 14 minutes. A number that suddenly felt like eternity and a heartbeat at the same time. Another paramedic touched my wrist, checking a pulse with shaking fingers. His eyes kept darting between me and the monitor, like he couldn't reconcile the numbers with the body they belonged to. I tried to speak. My throat burned. But the words came out anyway, broken, cracked. "Light." The paramedic leaned closer. "What did you say?" I swallowed hard, tears stinging the corners of my eyes, running sideways down my face onto the stretcher. "I saw light." My voice trembled. Then broke. I wasn't supposed to come back. The paramedic looked at the others. Wide-eyed, unnerved. One of them whispered under his breath, thinking I couldn't hear. This is not normal." They lifted me into the ambulance. My head spun with every movement. The sirens blared, vibrating through my bones, reminding me I had bones again. My chest ached with every breath, reminding me I had lungs again. But none of it felt as overwhelming as the presence that still lingered inside me. The truth he spoke, the weight of what I had seen, the warning I was carrying like fire under my ribs. As the ambulance doors slammed shut, I felt the world shift, too small, too loud, too fragile compared to where I had just been. My heart hammered painfully, alive, beating like it was trying to outrun my memories. The paramedic placed a hand on my arm, not professional, not routine, but human. He lowered his voice. "Whatever happened out there, you're lucky to be here. Lucky. If only he knew." I turned my head slightly toward the window as the ambulance sped down the road, lights flashing against my eyes. Buildings blurred past. Cars pulled aside. Life continued, unaware that I had left it, and returned from a place many never come back from. My breath hitched as the truth settled inside me like a final echo. I should have died. I should still be there. I was given back, but not for me. I was given back because of the message. And the weight of that message sat on my chest heavier than all the pain of returning to a broken, shaking body. The return was complete. Now came the real transformation of the new me. When they finally released me from the hospital 2 days later, I walked out with the feeling that the world had changed, but really, I was the one who had changed. My legs trembled under my weight. My chest felt tender every time I breathed. But the deepest ache wasn't physical, it was spiritual. It pressed behind my ribs like a reminder that I had stood at the edge of eternity, and eternity had spoken. The first night home, I sat at the edge of my bed, staring at my phone, the same phone that had carried every lie, every secret, every compromise. I forced myself to scroll through the messages, not to relive them, but to confront them. One by one, I deleted everything. Conversations. Photos. Promises I never should have made. Words that never should have left my mouth. My hand shook the whole time. When I finished, I placed the phone face down and whispered, "I am done." Not a negotiation. Not a delay. Not later. Done. I went to my wife. She was sitting in the living room, knees pulled to her chest, eyes tired the way only love-worried eyes can be tired. When she looked at me, I broke. Every wall I had built around myself crumbled in seconds. I cried so hard my chest hurt. I confessed everything, not edited, not softened. Every truth I had run from. Every boundary I crossed. Every moment I justified. I expected anger. I expected shouting. I expected her to walk away. But instead, she cried too. Quietly. Painfully. Honestly. And when her hand finally reached for mine, it felt like someone handing a dying man air. I apologized. I repented. I begged God to rebuild what I had broken. The next Sunday, I walked into church with steps that felt unfamiliar, like someone learning how to use new legs. Worship sounded different. The message felt deeper. I could feel every word piercing places inside me I had ignored for years. I could not live the same way again. I refused to. Everything changed. I cut off the affair immediately. I opened every part of my life to accountability. I prayed with a desperation I had never known before. I humbled myself in ways I once avoided. I became intentional, dangerously intentional, about guarding my heart. Because now I knew what lived on the other side of just one more message. Now I knew what hid behind delayed repentance. Now I knew what secrets sounded like in eternity. And I would not go back. Some nights, I wake up shaking, feeling the heat of that realm pressing against my chest. But then I remember the light, the voice, the mercy that pulled me out. And with every breath, I feel the weight of the mission He placed inside me. I was not brought back because I was good. I was brought back because someone needs the warning. And if you are hearing this now, if these words are reaching you, it is not an accident. It is not coincidence. It is your invitation. My final warning to you is this. Do not let the sin you hide become the truth that judges you in eternity. Please, listen. Do not wait for another chance. Do not say, later. Do not assume there will always be time. Look at your heart today. Search it with honesty. Confront what you've buried. Tell the truth while you still have the breath to speak it. Because I stood where later leads. And I barely came back. If you are watching this, tell me where you are watching from, so I can know how far my video get to. And stay connected by subscribing and turning on the notification bell. There are more warnings, more truth, more stories that people need to hear. Stories that might save someone's soul the way God saved mine. This is not entertainment. This is mercy. And this is your moment to share it.